Guys, I already know what you're thinking.
What the fuck is the Doom Patrol?
And don't worry, I'm gonna answer that question. But I'm your favorite member of the Doom Patrol, Justin, otherwise known as IDontBeatGames, and I'm here to bring that nerd culture content right to your monitors. Firstly, before we get started, I just want to say this video will be spoiler free, so don't stress it. Secondly, if you've never watched Doom Patrol, don't worry about it. I'm gonna go through each character, give you 1 or 2 sentences about them, and then I'll talk about the show. And this brings me to my final point. If you do watch Doom Patrol and you want to skip the character introductions, go to this time right here. So getting into the characters, we're going to talk about Niles Calder. Niles Calder is a scientist who literally plays a role in every single one of their lives, and guess what? Almost every single member of the Doom Patrol hate him. In fact, a lot of this show is based upon the fact of how much they hate him, and it's hilarious. Next up, we got one of my personal favorite characters, Cliff Steele. At one point in time, Cliff was a famous race car driver. He got into a bad accident, and Niles put his brain into a robot's body, and now we're here. Fun fact, he's played by Brendan Fraser, and yes, that Brendan Fraser.
Sorry, pal. There's a mummy on the loose.
Our favorite Teen Titan happens to join the squad, and that's Cyborg. And I have to say, first of all, this is important. No, he doesn't say this.
Yeah.
So now that I broke your hearts with that information, I have to say, Cyborg's a likable guy. He has a great backstory filled with trauma, and more importantly, he brings a more human element to the show. And he tries to make the Doom Patrol do something good for once. Next up, we got Larry Traynor, a former US air pilot who got into a bad accident, was exposed to both radiation and negative energy. He now lives with a negative spirit within his body, and his backstory brings LGBTQ representation. Next up, we got Rita Farr, a former celebrity and actress. She got her superpowers within an accident, and more importantly, she's one of the only characters that doesn't know how to use her powers, and you watch her overcome that struggle. And finally, we got my favorite character, Crazy Jane. She has 64 different personalities. She's hilarious, she curses a lot, she hates everybody, and more importantly, this actress kills it. She puts this show on her back. So now that we have all of the characters down, let's talk about the show. If you've never watched Doom Patrol, the best way I could describe this show is simple. The unexpected becomes the expected. Somehow, someway, with all of the layers that are in this show, and I'm talking trauma, emotional scenes, scenes with arguments, scenes with hilarious moments, scenes with batshit crazy things happening, they don't overlap. And even with that being said, that's not even the best part of the show. To me, the best part of this show is knowing that these characters are misfits, they're messed up, they're not perfect, and most importantly, this show doesn't try to show us otherwise. They literally strive on the fact that these characters are not perfect, they're always fighting, they're always arguing, they always have something wrong with them, and it doesn't simply go away. And don't get me wrong, I know it sounds bad, but hear me out. Doom Patrol capitalizes on these characters being misfits, and that's what I love. They're not trying to sell us that these characters are perfect. They're not trying to sell us that these characters will ever be perfect. But what they're trying to show us is that these characters, despite all of their trauma, they somehow, someway figure it out. Whether they like it or not, these characters have to address these things. They have to get through these hurdles. They have to address their trauma. Hell, one of my favorite things about this show is seeing that these characters have to do it, and seeing them fight against it, and seeing them not wanting to do it like a normal person would. And guess what? They end up having to overcome it anyways. And even when they have to address these things, they don't go away, they don't disappear, they don't just get rid of the trauma, they don't become convenient plot points, they continue to go through it, they continue to fight through it, they continue to still struggle. That's what makes the show feel so realistic. If you know, we lived in a world where we had superpowers and we had bizarre things like this and all that nonsense. But you guys get the point, you know? Now I'm gonna say it, this show is hilarious. With all the serious things that they have going on and all of the emotional baggage and all that nonsense, I have to give credit where it's due. This show is so damn funny that I cannot rave enough about it. The best way I could put it is simple. Imagine you and your best friends have to live with each other in a mansion forever. You all are exiled from the world, you all have superpowers, you all need to stay together, right? Now add the stress of being a superhero and having to somehow deal with superpowers along with dealing with emotional baggage and all that nonsense. That is this show. Doom Patrol literally has scenes where they fight with one another, and it reminds me of me and my best friends. We literally will argue over anything, and I'm talking about literally nothing. And somehow I'll see a scene and I'll be like, man, we literally argue the same exact way. Like, dude, this scene literally reminds me of my friends.
Get this straight. How does a band of circus freaks manage to screw up so badly that they lose their leader and the whole entire town at the same damn time.
Hey, Monday morning QB. I don't feel good about it either.
Then you literally take every single different funny thing that happens in this show and you have a recipe for disaster. I cannot say this enough. These characters are such misfits that every single event they end up in, they somehow make it worse. They somehow mess it up, and I don't get it. But it's one of those things where you get that legitimate reaction where you cringe because you're like, guys, come on, you're making this harder on yourselves. Despite all of that, these characters are lovable. They're human, except Cliff, I know. But the point I'm trying to say here is that all of these characters are likable. They're all gonna grow on you. You might not love every single one of them, and I know that. But what I'm trying to say is that these characters end up overcoming some flaws and overcoming some of their imperfections, and that helps them become lovable. So if you don't like certain characters in the beginning, don't worry, give it time, they might grow on you. There is something I specifically want to address about this show, and that's the amount of cursing there is. If you are someone who doesn't like a show where they curse a lot, and I'm talking like they let those F-bombs fly, they are not afraid to curse by any means whatsoever, then this show might not be for you, and that's okay, but I do want to let you know, the way they go about cursing in this show feels a lot more tolerable than the way it is on Harley Quinn, which is on both DC Universe and HBO Max. And what I mean by that is that the Harley Quinn show literally feels like they curse just for the sake of cursing. And don't worry, yes, there's gonna be a Harley Quinn video coming soon, I promise. But the way they go about cursing on Doom Patrol feels more applicable than it does on Harley Quinn, and to me that makes a big difference because it makes it feel more tolerable. Along with that, it doesn't feel like Doom Patrol is being edgy just for the sake of being edgy. The trauma feels real. I know what it's like for a show to feel edgy just for the sake of being it, and yes, I'm looking at you Titans, so if you're really worried about the cursing in the show, don't worry too much. This show is very lovable. Don't let the cursing take away or ruin the experience for you. So there's one last honorable mention before we end this video, and I have to talk about Crazy Jane. I don't know how she does it, but the actress who plays Jane, which is Diane Guerrero, she kills it. She somehow, someway makes literally every single personality that she depicts on screen memorable. Literally somehow every single persona that she has to play for Jane has some sort of power within the scene that she's in. Don't get me wrong, I get it. Memorizing 64 different personalities is hard, especially for a viewer, but when it comes to the context of the scene and she switches personas, you instantly remember those personas after seeing them at least once or twice. And to me, I feel like the way she depicts all of these different characters and all of these different personas was literally worth mentioning because she does not get enough love for what she does in this show. So with all that being said, right, what are my final thoughts about Doom Patrol? Doom Patrol is a show that does its own thing, and the way it goes about it is outstanding. This show is so memorable. I hope it gets renewed again for season 3. I hope they continue to get great reviews. I hope more people watch this show because let me be honest, you should watch this show. What more can you ask from a show that literally does what it wants, has funny scenes, has lovable characters, has batshit crazy things going on within the story, and somehow, someway, it manages to also cover a ton of serious different topics within the show that doesn't overlap with one another. That's how good of a show this is. Doom Patrol is one of my favorite superhero shows. I'm glad it exists, and I will say it's not for everybody, and that's okay. But I'm so glad that this show is something for me. If everything I said sounds like it's up your alley, go ahead and watch Doom Patrol on HBO Max and DC Universe. Like I said earlier, I'm your host and your favorite member of the Doom Patrol, Justin, otherwise known as IDontBeatGames, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Hell, hit that sub button. And if you're nice and generous, hit that like button. And if you really want to talk more, go ahead and drop a comment below. I'm always here to respond.